Hello and welcome to Useful Idiots Monday Morning, where we watch the Sunday morning news shows so that you don't have to. I'm Katie Halper.
I'm Aaron Maté. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Good Monday morning to all. Our reminder that our website is usefulidiotspodcast.com. Go there to support the show, get bonus content, and ensure many more Monday mornings to come. We have limited time today, so let's get going with our weekly Meet the Depressed recap.
Yeah, and we'll do an extra couple minutes next week for you. But I want to say before we get to this, Aaron, it's very important, as people know, that the ICC has issued arrest warrants for Hamas leader and Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant, the defense minister of Israel. And guess how many of the morning news shows mention this, guys?
I'm going to guess 100% across the board, wall-to-wall coverage. Yeah.
Well, just to check, I actually literally did an Apple F. I searched their transcripts, and no, there was not a single mention on CBS, ABC, NBC, or CNN. So why would that be newsworthy? The fact that there is the historic, unprecedented move of the ICC to issue an arrest warrant for two Israeli leaders.
Yeah, yawn emoji.
Mm-hmm.
Just
snooze.
Yeah, the top criminal court issuing arrest warrants for the top U.S. ally for committing, mass murder.
NBD.
Yeah. Well, that's not surprising at all. So, yeah, with that in mind, of course, we should be reacting to coverage of ICC warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant, but unfortunately, we have to work with what we're given from the corporate news media. So, let's see what they do give us. Let's go to Meet the Press. Meet the Depressed.
Welcome to Meet the Press now. I'm Yamisha Sendor in Washington. President-elect Trump is aiming to move on quickly from his first failed.
This is the wrong clip. This is a show in the Meet the Press franchise called Meet the Press Now, but this is not the weekly recap. So,
that's my fault then.
Yeah. So let's see here.
Are we sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
All right. Let's skip. Should we just go to the next clip?
We're going to skip that. And I'll find the right one in the meantime. But let's go to the incoming Trump administration National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz. Trump was elected promising to end the Ukraine war. How, he didn't say, and why we should believe he would, it's unclear because, of course, what did he do in office? He actually escalated tensions with Russia by sending weapons to Ukraine that Obama wouldn't send and by tearing up a series of really important arms control treaties with Russia. So Trump did his part, but then he was claiming he's going to be the man of peace. Well, what is his incoming National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, saying about the Trump administration's approach and whether they differ or not from the Joe Biden approach, which most recently includes letting Ukraine use long-range U.S. missiles to strike Russia, which then prompted Russia to retaliate by launching a previously unseen missile, an intercontinental missile that was nuclear capable and had never been seen before. So how is the Trump administration handling this? How are they distinguishing themselves from Joe Biden's approach? Well, we're going to find out from Mike Waltz.
Clear on one thing, Jillian. Jake Sullivan and I have had discussions. We've met. For our adversaries out there that think this is a time of opportunity, that they can play one administration off the other, they're wrong. And we are hand in glove. We are one team with the United States in this transition.
That is good to hear, certainly.
Wow. The uniparty. Thank God. Thank God.
So you remember the whole thing where Trump was like talking about Biden is going to get us into World War III and we have to stop these neocon globalists. That was like Trump's line. Well, according to his incoming National Security Advisor, they're on board with the people they call the neocon globalists heading into World War III. They're one team.
But Aaron, it's their neocon globalists, not Biden's neocon globalists.
Very true. Very, very true.
That makes all the difference. It really is like a parody. It's so funny. It's like something that critics of the United States deep state would say. Like, there's no difference between one and the other. But here they're actually saying it themselves. You can't make it up.
Yes, it is. Okay. Well, just to show you that really the Trump administration's, the incoming Trump team's approach is not that much different from Biden's, according to Trump's incoming National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz. Michael McCaul, who is the Republican chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, he also was recently speaking to the Atlantic Council, which is a very powerful neocon think tank in Washington. He also says that he's not worried about the Trump administration changing course. And this is, of course, not from the Sunday news shows, but this is some important context. So this is Mike McCaul.
Can't allow Ukraine to fall. I think President Trump's right about this. I still believe he has voices in his head, in his ear, like myself, like Mr. Waltz, who is on my committee, like Rubio, like Mike Pompeo and Robert O'Brien, and like-minded, people are probably more back from the Reagan era, that we can't afford to lose this fight. And it's vital to our national interests, because if Ukraine falls, Taiwan is next. And that would be World War III.
Wow. I mean, a good way to help Ukraine not fall would, of course, be to stop the proxy war that we are cheering on. Maybe.
Yeah. And it's funny, but he says, like, if Ukraine falls, then we go to Taiwan and that's World War III. Well, I don't know. How about like right now, where the U.S. is directly assisting Ukraine in launching long-range strikes into Russia, because Ukraine can't use these ATACMS missiles without U.S. help. Not just have the weaponry itself, but actually to like do the targeting, put in the coordinates, put in all the data. So that's why recently the former Ukrainian general said, we're in World War III. So news to Michael McCaul. Some people think we're already in World War III. And certainly, if you want to avoid further escalation, why not encourage a thing called diplomacy rather than more long-range strikes? Just a thought. Just a thought.
And there's also a new Gallup poll. Did you just say that? Because my mic just went out. Did you just mention that?
The Gallup poll? No, I did not.
Yeah. There's a new Gallup poll that says 52% want a negotiated end to the war.
52% of Ukrainians.
Wow. Of Ukrainians.
Yeah. Well, those people who kept saying, listen to Ukrainians when they wanted to, funnel tens of billions of dollars of U.S. money into the proxy war. I don't think they'll be saying, listen to Ukrainians now.
Right. Listen to the 32% as opposed to the 52% of Ukrainians. I did the math wrong, but you get what I mean.
Yes. Okay. What does Michael Waltz have to say about the other global catastrophe that the Biden administration is fueling, the whole Gaza genocide? Let's hear that.
Team has always insisted that a negotiated end to the war in Gaza is the only way forward. But we also know that the president-elect and his, top advisors often feel that these sort of swift military victories are the better way to bring about the ends of wars. How do you see the conflict in Gaza and more broadly in the Middle East coming to a close?
Well, look at the strength and the grit that the Israelis and Prime Minister Netanyahu has shown. Hezbollah with the pager and walkie-talkie operation and ongoing strikes on their leadership is completely on their back foot, not only from a military standpoint, but from an economic standpoint as well. Hamas has been devastated. Iran is incredibly exposed at this point. So I think now is a moment to craft some type of arrangement that doesn't just put a pause for future October 7th, truly brings stability to the Middle East, sets the stage for what we saw just a few years ago with the Abraham Accords. I mean, Jillian, we had peace deals being signed on the White House lawn.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons why you had October 7th.
Exactly.
Because Hamas was realizing that the U.S., first with Trump and then with Biden continuing it, was attempting to make all these side deals, normalizing relations between Israel and Gulf states that were completely sidelining Palestinian rights. Because, the whole position of the Arab League forever, which Israel has rejected every single time it's been offered it, was that, hey, we'll normalize with you if you just grant Palestinians some minimal rights. If you let them have a state in 22% of the land that Israel stole from them. Just 22%, the West Bank, Gaza, East Jerusalem. And if you do that, Israel will normalize with you. And the Trump administration's approach was, forget the whole Palestinian self-determination thing. Let's just encourage integration with Israel in the region without any respect for Palestinian rights. And that's what was happening under the Abraham Accords. And that's what Mike Waltz is putting forward as his genius plan to continue in the Trump administration.
Right.
Continuing to sideline Palestinians.
Yeah, he's literally like, under Trump, we implemented something that helped bring about October 7th.
Yeah.
Not to brag.
All right. Through the magic of behind the scenes live producing, we have our weekly Meet the Press recap from Meet the Depressed. So here it is.
Good Sunday morning. President-elect Donald Trump has finished rolling out a pre-holiday flurry of cabinet picks, remaking the Justice Department, Pentagon, and the intelligence community with loyalists. On Tuesday, as a growing number of Republican senators demanded the release of a House ethics report into allegations former Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz paid women for sex, including a 17-year-old in 2017, the president-elect denied he was reconsidering Gaetz.
Mr. President, are you reconsidering the nomination of Matt Gaetz?
No. But just 2 days later, Gaetz withdrew from consideration, though he continues to deny wrongdoing.
I was dealing with a politically motivated body. They had an axe to grind. So that was going to serve as at least enough of a basis to delay my confirmation as Attorney General.
Was this decision a surprise to you?
No. I was surprised the timing of it. I figured it would go a little longer than this, but ultimately I think you can see the writing on the wall.
Now, hours after Gaetz.
That's an interesting first name the senator has, Mark Wayne. It's like two names in one, and it's not even like no hyphen. It's just
right.
Mark Wayne. You know?
Right, Mark Wayne. Yeah. Also interesting wardrobe choice
with the cowboy hat.
The cowboy hat. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to start wearing one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why not?
Well, hey. Yeah. Stay tuned for future episodes, everybody. We'll be debuting the official Useful Idiots cowboy hat.
Yeah.
Katie will be modeling that. And maybe we'll sell merch. Who knows?
I was going to say, we should get Useful Idiots cowboy hats. Yeah.
Yes. Well, so Matt Gaetz dropped out. That was fast, one down, many more to go, it looks like. But yeah, that wasn't a big surprise that Matt Gaetz dropped out. I mean, he was facing really serious allegations, although it has to be said, he's been investigated before by federal authorities, was never charged. But he was not going to win very many friends in Washington.
Right.
Not only because of, the allegations against him, which were serious, but also because of he does have some heterodox views. He supported pardoning Edward Snowden. He opposed the funding for the proxy war in Ukraine. He actually introduced a measure, or helped introduce a measure, to pull U.S. troops out of Syria. And apparently he was a fan of the current FTC commissioner, Lena Khan, who's actually, who people like Elon Musk hate. So there are many reasons for establishing people in Washington to oppose Matt Gaetz, not just because of the allegations against them, but not surprisingly, given those allegations, he's been forced to step down. And now apparently he's doing cameo videos for people. So you can buy a cameo video from Matt Gaetz, everybody, if you're looking for a holiday gift.
Another thing that we should do, Aaron, speaking of UI merch, I'm actually offended we haven't been sought out by Cameo.
Yeah, well, stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned, yeah.
It's dropped out. President-elect Trump named former two-term Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, who served on Mr. Trump's defense team during his first impeachment trial, instead. After Mr. Trump lost the 2020 election, Bondi amplified his false claims of election fraud.
As Eric Trump said, we are thrilled to have won Pennsylvania. We have won Pennsylvania, and they're not going to take it away from us.
Now, Bondi has been a vocal critic of the criminal cases against Mr. Trump, as well as special counsel Jack Smith, who charged him in 2 federal cases.
The Department of Justice, the prosecutors will be prosecuted, the bad ones. The investigators will be investigated, because the deep state, last term for President Trump, they were hiding in the shadows, but now they have a spotlight on them, and they can all be investigated, and the House needs to be cleaned out, because now we know who most of them are.
I hate to say I told you so, but I'm going to say I told you so, because I sang on the show when we're doing Doc Talk, remember the classified documents thing? It was going to backfire on Democrats. It was going to play into Trump's self-image as like a foe of the establishment targeted by the deep state, which is exactly what's happened. Now that guy, Jack Smith, is packing up his office, packing up his bags with nothing to show for it. And the Trump team is going to use this to, I think, distract from what we all should be talking about, which was whether the Trump administration is fulfilling their mandate to help the working class, to help working people, which they promised, which I can confidently predict they won't, because they're ultimately a party of plutocrats. And that's who Trump appointed in his first term. That's who I think he will continue to serve in his second term. But they will continue to like use the fact that he has been targeted by the DOJ. First, when he was framed as a Russian agent, and then with all these special counsel cases that went nowhere. And that's going to just keep distracting the country. So another own goal, I think, here from Democrats.
Yeah, and also I do appreciate Bondi's predictions. I feel like she's practicing, like, you know, if you manifest it, it'll happen.
Yep.
I mean, it didn't happen, so I guess she's a bad advertisement for the book The Secret or The Power of Attraction or whatever. But, you know, I love the way that they pretend these people are so outside of the system, heterodox, as you said. And, you know, Matt Gaetz is in some ways heterodox, but Bondi, here's how heterodox she is. She's a lobbyist who's worked on behalf of Amazon and Uber.
Yes. And, you know, their big thing, of course, has been like, we're the party of free speech, and, you know, we're being censored for our views. But like, who is Pam Bondi going to target? I bet it's going to be students on campus protesting genocide in Gaza. And you know, Trump has vowed to like deport foreign students who like protest Israel. That's going to be, I think, one of their first targets. And I bet Democrats will do absolutely nothing about it because they share that agenda as well.
Right.
According to the Washington Post, President-elect Trump plans to fire the team that worked with the special counsel. The press secretary for Mr. Trump's transition team responding, quote, President Trump campaigned on firing rogue bureaucrats who have engaged in the illegal weaponization of our American justice system, and the American people can expect he will deliver on that promise. A key question now that Gaetz has dropped out.
It's all just like intra-elite fighting, you know what I mean? The Trump faction versus the, you know, Democratic faction. And it's just been, this is like 2016 all over again, you know, just back and forth, while both parties unite to target the most vulnerable, including people who oppose genocide and protest it on college campuses across the country.
So great.
Out. Will other Trump picks face more intense scrutiny, including his pick to lead the Pentagon, Pete Hegseth, who faces questions about sexual assault allegations, which he denies, and former Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, who made 2 secret visits to Syrian dictator Bashar Assad in 2017. She has also amplified Kremlin talking points, blaming the U.S. for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Ambassador Nikki Haley weighing in.
I love this argument. Oh, no, I love the argument that she's echoing Russian talking points. Like, there are certain things that I believe that may coincide with other people's beliefs. That doesn't make me like a champion of those people. You know, I always bring up this really nerdy example, but like both Trump and Bernie Sanders opposed the TPP. So they always pretended they were the same. They opposed them for different reasons.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm opposed to the Nazis in World War II. You know, so is the Kremlin, because, like, you know, like Russia fought, like the Soviet Union fought
Stalin,
like fought the Nazis and lost 27 million people. So if I say, you know, I'm also opposed to Nazi Germany, does that mean I'm also echoing Kremlin talking points?
Yeah,
like,
you're a Stalinist.
Like, don't say anything that happens to align with what a Russian person says. Like, you know, it's really juvenile.
Yeah,
you know,
it's so dumb.
International affairs, politics, it's not the schoolyard, you know what I mean? There's no cooties. Cooties don't exist.
Yeah.
The Kremlin, just because the Kremlin has cooties doesn't mean that I can't maybe say something that happens to align with what the cootie carrying government says. You know,
yeah,
very,
Kremlin
very
cooties.
juvenile.
Kremlin cooties, yeah.
Let's try to grow up, people, a little bit, okay? But let's hear from, for a counter argument, let's hear from voice of reason, voice of wisdom, Nikki Haley.
This is not a place for a Russian, Iranian, Syrian, Chinese sympathizer. DNI has to analyze real threats. Are we comfortable with someone like that at the top of our national intelligence agencies?
Now, NBC News has...
Yes, this is the playbook. If you question U.S. state propaganda, if you question the pretext under which we go to war and impose sanctions and wage proxy wars around the world, then you are a sympathizer with the targeted state. That's just what it comes down to. And that's the, Nikki Haley is perceived as is presented as the voice of reason. Meanwhile, of course, all these politicians are, paid or are bought off essentially by Israel lobbyists. They all receive millions of dollars from that. No one ever accuses them of being an Israel sympathizer and questions their loyalties, even though they actually do the bidding of a foreign apartheid state that commits unspeakable atrocities. But yet that loyalty and that sympathy is never called into question. It's only if you question U.S. state propaganda, you must be a sympathizer with a foreign bad guy state. It's just the classic playbook over and over.
Right. And we know that from people like Nancy Pelosi, who also pointed out that protesters were all on the payroll, Putin's payroll, or Chinese spies.
There we go.
There we go. So it's bipartisan. I'm glad that Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi can agree.
We'll have more on the Tulsi freak out.
Oh, yeah. Don't you worry.
Later on, there's much more to come.
Has learned that within hours of taking office, President-elect Trump plans to roll out a series of executive actions aligned with his campaign promises, including setting in motion the large-scale deportation of people living in the country illegally.
Those people who say they're going to stop us from what they're doing, they will not. We'll have no problem finding a place to detain these people. It's going to cost money, so we got to have the money to do it. But President Trump's going to do everything he can to make sure we have the funds to do this.
Yes, it's so tough. It's so muscular to go after like vulnerable, undocumented immigrants, separate them from their children. That's what we can expect to be happening under Trump.
Right.
And again,
another bipartisan thing.
Yes, it has to be said. They're demonizing the very migrants their policies help create with their regime change efforts around the world. There is a reason why people flee Venezuela. Whatever your criticisms of the government there might be, the fact is the Trump administration knew when it imposed sanctions aimed at destroying Venezuela's economy that millions were going to flee. There was explicit warnings about that. It was recently reported in the Washington Post. Not that we needed the Post to confirm it, was obvious, but there was high-level warnings. So, that's never in this conversation about, dealing with the so-called immigration issue.
Right, exactly. And also, speaking of bipartisanship, it's great that Obama was the deporter in chief. So this is another example of where there's been a continuation. And another example of, obviously Trump is just trying to scapegoat people. And I highly recommend, if people aren't already subscribers to our Substack, that you check out our episode with Jeffrey Sachs, because we talk about immigration and he has some really important insights as an economist.
Mr. Trump and his allies disavowed the conservative policy blueprint Project 2025 during the campaign.
I don't know what the hell it is. It's Project 25. He's involved in Project, and then they read some of the things and they are extreme. I mean, they're seriously extreme. I have no idea what Project 2025 is. I've never read it and I never will.
But with the campaign over, Trump's
I do believe him when he says he'll never read it.
Right.
I definitely believe that. I don't believe the rest of it, but Trump vowing not to read something, I will sign for that. 100%. I will vouch for that. He's telling the truth. He will not read the document. Even if he'll implement all of its policies, he will not actually read the document.
No doc talk from him.
No.
Transition team is turning to Project 2025 to help staff the next administration, picking its co-author, Russell Vought, to lead the Office of Management and Budget, as he did in Mr. Trump's first term.
Must be a total coincidence, because Trump, of course, said he claimed to have nothing to do with it. So, must be, maybe Russell Vought was just picked randomly off the street, because certainly Trump, again, we do believe him when he says he didn't read Project 2025, but
right. Doesn't mean he's not that people who are running stuff aren't influenced by it.
100%.
Top Trump aides are praising the pick.
Russ Vought has been the guy for the last 4 years who's been developing the plan to take down the deep state. That's Russ. And he's going to be right there at OMB to execute that plan.
And joining me.
Oh, man. See, the term deep state, just like anti-Semitism, has really been, manipulated to twist it's basically the deep state in the eyes of Trumpers means anybody who doesn't like Trump and is against Trump. The, deep state more commonly is this entrenched national security state bureaucracy that undermines the will of the elected president in a bid to perpetuate U.S. hegemony. That's the traditional understanding of the deep state. I mean, and there is some overlap there between, going after, undermining Trump, because, for example, when Trump called for withdrawing U.S. troops from Syria, the entrenched bureaucracy, the deep state, just ignored him and actually lied to him and said that we don't have as many troops there as the U.S. actually did. But now the deep state is just, it's put out there to mean anybody who doesn't go along with what Trump says. Yeah. Okay.
So convenient.
Right. Very convenient. Okay. Well, someone actually who is a member of that aforementioned deep state is H.R. McMaster, who was Trump's national security advisor, who has bragged about how he basically tried to ignore Trump's, misguided efforts to talk to U.S. adversaries like Putin or Kim Jong-un. Here's H.R. McMaster weighing in on the Biden administration's recent, genius decision on its way out of office to let Ukraine all of a sudden start hitting Russia with long-range U.S. weapons. And, funnily enough, New York Times recently reported, and we talked about this with Jeffrey Sachs, that the Biden administration was influenced by the election of Donald Trump. And because they decided that with Trump elected and with Putin knowing that Trump is coming in and Trump maybe wants to make peace, that maybe that will convince Putin not to escalate too much in response to Biden's escalation. So that's the kind of thinking that's going on inside the Biden White House. Like, Trump got elected, so Putin might not escalate. So let's just go ahead and directly participate in war on Russia. So here's H.R. McMaster weighing in on all this.
I want to ask you about the geopolitical threat picture right now that the next commander-in-chief will be walking into the Oval Office and facing. In these final weeks of the Biden administration, Ukraine has started using U.S.-made ATACMS, a type of longer-range missile, to strike within Russian territory. President Biden also approved anti-personnel landmines. The aim is to get them on stronger footing before Trump takes office. Can these weapons quickly make a difference?
They can make a difference, Margaret. Really, it made no sense to not allow the Ukrainians to fire those missiles at the bases that Russia was using to continue their onslaught against the Ukrainian people and Ukrainian infrastructure. And so it's another one of these examples how the Biden administration has taken this halting approach to providing weapons and then permissions to use weapons. And so I think it's important because both sides right now are incentivized to make as many gains on the battlefield as they can before the new Trump administration comes in. And you see Russia throwing troops into Ukrainian defenses. I mean, they're taking tens of thousands of casualties a month. I think it's really an unsustainable
source for that. H.R. McMaster's imagination. I mean, I don't know how you can say with certainty that Russia is taking tens of thousands of casualties a month. I mean, maybe it's true. I'm not God, so I don't know exactly, I don't know the exact number, but I don't see any evidence for that. And Russia certainly doesn't report that number. So I don't know where he's getting that from beyond his own imagination. And we've been hearing this for a long time, like Russia's taking an unsustainable amount of casualties and there's no way they can hang on. And I don't know if you remember this, but about a year ago or maybe longer, NATO was saying that Russia is so desperate for technology because of they're under sanctions that they're using dishwasher chips for their weapons. You remember that?
Oh,
they're
wow! I think I missed that.
What's her name? Ursula von der Leyen, the head of the EU, was like,
proud genocide.
She was like, Russia's so desperate that they're using dishwasher chips in their missiles. And meanwhile, what did Russia just do? Launch this really sophisticated, unprecedented missile right into Ukraine that has that can carry nuclear weapons. And I don't think that used dishwasher chips. So I just would take all these claims about Russian losses and setbacks with a grain of salt.
With a grain of dishwasher chip. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Also, I guess he must be really excited, McMaster, that Biden's now giving Ukraine these landmines, anti-personnel landmines. Yeah.
He's loving life.
He's loving life.
This is really exciting.
Living his best life.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Sustainable rate. And what the Ukrainians are doing now is trying to protect themselves from the onslaught, inflict as many casualties as they can, and they're trading some space for time and the opportunity to cause more attrition on Russian forces. So the next couple of months, I think
he sounds like he's stoned or something. It's trading space for time.
think are really critical in terms of what is the next phase in the war in Ukraine?
Well, President Zelensky said just yesterday that he's sure Vladimir Putin is trying to, quote, push us out by January 20th and try to demonstrate that he has.
And again, this idea that, there's a new phase coming in. Ukraine is running out of people. That's why Jake Sullivan recently joined Lindsey Graham in saying you need to draft younger people, because right now the Ukrainian conscription age is as young as 25. And Jake Sullivan and Graham are saying you need to draft 18-year-olds to send more people off to die, because the New York Times recently reported that Ukraine only has enough troops to hold on for another 6 to 12 months, which I think actually could very well be an overestimate. I'm not even sure if they have that much time. That's the problem here. No matter how many weapons, U.S. weapons you pour in, Russia can outmatch you, and then nothing will account for the shortage you have in people, because you've already sacrificed hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians for this futile proxy war.
Right. Has the upper hand. He's not saying that, just as an observation. He is looking at the National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz. He's looking at the possible next Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who has voted against Ukraine aid. The vice president-elect is against helping Ukraine. Can Ukraine get the upper hand here? And are these top advisors going to be persuadable?
Well,
I love how an anchor feels as if it's paramount that we persuade the incoming administration to continue a proxy war.
Right.
It's she's doing PR messaging on behalf of the proxy war. Can we persuade the people in power to continue this disastrous war and spend, I don't know, you want another $182 billion of taxpayer money not going towards meeting Americans' needs, and again going into defense contractors? The bill is already pretty high. How much more do we want to spend on this? How many more people do we want to kill and sacrifice to keep this going?
Yeah, I mean, fingers crossed they'll be able to sell it. We can only hope that this war will continue. They have no, they don't even understand what they're saying. They have no concern for the Ukrainian people. They think that they do.
Yeah, I mean, again, for example, the poll we mentioned earlier from Gallup, over half of Ukrainians now want negotiations. We don't see that being mentioned here amidst all the hand wringing about Ukraine.
I'm sure it got left on the cutting room floor, just along with the ICC mentions. They just couldn't fit that in. Yeah.
There we go.
I think what you're seeing is this delivers a psychological blow to the Ukrainians. Ukrainians are struggling to generate the manpower that they need and to sustain their defensive efforts. And it's important that they get the weapons they need and the training that they need, but also they have to have the confidence that they can prevail. And any sort of messages that we might reduce our aid are quite damaging to them from a moral perspective. I think, and what I hope, is that those who President Trump has nominated and President Trump himself will begin to see the quite obvious connections between the war in Ukraine and this axis of aggressors.
More stone talk, hey? The connections, it's
exactly.
we're all interconnected. The axis of aggressors. We have to keep sacrificing Ukrainian young people so that we can have the right to kill more young people elsewhere in other countries.
Right, and also play with time and space.
Yes, yes. But I love it. And we have another new axis. I've lost how many there's the axis of evil, obviously. There's the axis of terror, then now we have the axis of aggressors from H.R. McMaster.
AA.
Yeah, well, these people need to go to AA for help with their addiction to aggression themselves.
Yeah.
They're doing everything they can to tear down the existing international order. I mean, heck, Margaret,
let's hope so.
Yeah,
that would be great, because that is, of course, the rule of empire.
Yeah, the order that allows for a mass murder campaign in Gaza right now, leaving it destroyed. You mean that order?
Yeah.
I mean, sign me up for that.
Yep.
But I do like how he said heck.
Sorry.
If someone says heck, they mean business.
Yeah.
Soldiers are fighting on European soil in the first major war in Europe since World War II. Look at what China's doing to sustain Russia's war-making machine with the cash Vladimir Putin needs, but also with the equipment and the hardware necessary to build these missiles that are continuing this onslaught.
Wow, imagine supplying weapons and money to continue a foreign war. the horror of doing that. Yeah.
Who would ever do that?
Yeah.
Only communist China.
Yeah, when we spend $182 billion and we say that, like, we're investing in killing Russians, as so many U.S. officials and lawmakers have said, we're just doing that because we have to. But China, like, by the way, China's not even arming Russia. Like, they supply, like, they do trade, but like, we're directly participating in the Ukraine proxy war, not just giving Ukraine missiles, but assisting Ukraine with the deliveries. But yet it's China, because they do trade with Russia and send over some parts. They're the ones that fall for fueling the war.
We're projecting.
It's just, you can go all day with these people, the hypocrisy and the projection. Okay, we're gonna skip ahead because we're running out of time. Let's go to Adam Schiff. This is clip 5.5. Adam Schiff, much to my dismay, is the new senator-elect from California. I'm really disappointed in California for this one. I blame Adam Schiff for so many of our problems.
Aaron, quick question. Who would you rather represent you as a senator? Adam Schiff or Chris Coons?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'd go with Coons, I have to say.
Wow. Even though he got you thrown off a train. Throw Aaron from a train. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. You're a principled man.
Yeah. Funnily enough, funny story. I took a train the other day from DC to New York, and I ran into a wonderful person. She is a Delaware state lawmaker.
What's up with you and Delaware lawmakers?
Well, anyway, her name is Medina Wilson Anton. So shout out to Medina. I ran into her on the train, and she told me that on her way down to DC from Delaware, on her train was none other than Senator Chris Coons.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she thought of me, and she was thinking of, doing a do-over, like what. Because it was a year ago now when I confronted her on the train, asking him about why he's supporting genocide, but she didn't get around to it. But anyway, shout out to Medina. It was great to run into on the train, and I hope to see Senator Chris Coons once again, because I'd love to ask him, for example, about his recent vote in the Senate where he, voted against Bernie Sanders' measure to cut off weapons to Israel.
So disgusting.
But shout out to Medina Wilson Anton. She's a Delaware state representative, but also a really funny stand-up comedian. So
whoa, we should have her on.
Yeah, we should. We should definitely. Okay. Adam Schiff. Let's turn to him, and he's going to talk about where he stands in the Trump cabinet picks.
Senator-elect Schiff, is there anyone on this list who at this very moment you think you could vote yes on, you could support?
Well, for example, I think Marco Rubio is enormously well qualified for the job for which he's been nominated. I still want to ask questions. I'm not going to completely prejudge even him, but he's unquestionably qualified, and there are others as well. But some really stand out for the risk they would present to the American people.
So right now, Senator Rubio would have your vote as a yes?
Well, I'm strongly inclined that way. I don't want to prejudge completely because you never can tell what comes out in the vetting process. But he's
warmongers love warmongers.
Warmongers do love warmongers. So Marco Rubio, because he advocates, war everywhere. He played a major role in Trump's coup attempt in Venezuela, which, by the way, self-regarded democracy champion Adam Schiff never cared about. He didn't care that Trump, who he called a dictator, threat to democracy, was trying to overthrow the government of a foreign country by destroying its economy and posing, Juan Guaido with Marco Rubio's help. Adam Schiff loves that. So that's why Adam Schiff is on board with Marco Rubio.
By the way, Marco Rubio lied about when his parents came from Cuba, when his family came from Cuba. He liked to pretend that they fled Castro, except they came before Castro came to power.
That sounds also like Robert Menendez did that too.
Oh, really?
The now former senator from New Jersey. Yeah.
Let's hope he meets the same fate as Menendez.
Yeah. And he was the guy who also, when he was caught with all this gold in his in his house, which he'd obtained likely through corruption. How else do you obtain gold like that? Menendez said it's because of the trauma of living under the Castro dictatorship that he feels.
I forgot about that.
To make himself feel secure with having
gold bars. Yeah.
Who doesn't?
He sleeps with them instead of a security blanket. He sleeps with gold bars. Yeah,
100%. Time-tested treatment for proven effective treatment for trauma of living under dictatorship.
Yeah,
is having gold bars all around you. So everybody get on that. Yeah.
PTSD, post-communist stress disorder.
Yeah. Just go out and get some gold bars, everybody, if you're feeling trauma over anything, really.
His wife killed someone in a hit and run.
That is also true. What a
great
legacy.
Family, and they met in a Denny's.
Okay, well that's cool.
That is cool. And she didn't know who he was.
That's very endearing, actually.
Yeah,
that's very endearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost don't believe that, but I'll.
Right.
But hey, if
yeah,
true,
it could be a lie. Yeah.
yeah, very true. Okay.
Qualified.
Let's talk about your former colleague who you just mentioned, Tulsi Gabbard. She's been picked as Director of National Intelligence. Just last week, Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz said Gabbard was, quote, likely a Russian asset. Do you share those concerns, or is that overstated?
Well, I wouldn't describe her that way. But what I would say this, she has certainly...
Okay. This is huge news, everybody. This should have prompted a breaking news alert on Meet the Press. I'm disappointed in them. Adam Schiff, possibly the first time in his career, declines to call somebody a Russian asset.
Wow.
That's a big development. That's a big development. You know, he built his national brand calling everybody who he didn't like a Russian asset, from Donald Trump on down. So this is huge that he's declining for the first time, I believe, to call someone a Russian asset. This is a real shift from Adam Schiff.
Yeah, Schiff. I wonder why.
Maybe because he lied on national television so many times about seeing secret evidence of Trump-Russia collusion.
Right.
But maybe in his head, he's thinking, maybe I should lay off the whole Russian asset thing for a little bit.
The boy who cried wolf.
Yeah, cool my heels a little bit.
Yeah.
Echoed talking points for the Kremlin. She appeared to have taken Putin's side when he invaded Ukraine. And, her fondness for Bashar al-Assad, someone who is gassing his own people, calls her judgment deeply into question. So here you have someone with very questionable judgment and no experience. That's not a great recipe for running the agencies. And the problem is...
So I love that a guy, he literally used his position as chair of the House Intelligence Committee. He used it to push this Trump-Russia conspiracy theory, because he was it's very obvious he was behind many leaks that that were put out there strategically to some new dumb bombshell for MSNBC to obsess over about Trump-Russia collusion. And also he's such a dupe and such a liar. He even read portions of the Steele dossier, the Clinton campaign funded collection of fiction about a Trump-Russia conspiracy. He read that into the congressional record. Okay. So he's a proven fabulist and falsifier who's spread demonstrable lies. And now he's still sitting there as a voice of authority on whether Tulsi Gabbard has credibility or not on intelligence matters. I have no criticisms of Tulsi Gabbard. I hate the turn she's taken. The old Tulsi Gabbard, right. She actually criticized Israeli occupation. She criticized U.S. sanctions on foreign governments. She accurately questioned claims of Syrian government chemical weapons use, which are supported not only by whistleblowers from the OPCW, as I've reported, but also from the U.S. intelligence community itself. U.S. intelligence officials have also leaked the fact that their intelligence on alleged Syrian government chemical weapons use was not a slam dunk. And that was a deliberate reference to the Iraq WMD scam. So Tulsi Gabbard's not alone in that. And people are pretending as if she is. But Adam Schiff, for him to sit there and pretend as if he's some authority is just ridiculous given his own record.
Shifty Schiff.
If our foreign allies don't trust the head of our intelligence agencies, they'll stop sharing information with us, and that makes our country less safe. So I have profound concerns about her.
Well,
all right. Well, Adam Schiff has profound concerns, and we can all trust him, the guy who swore on that same show, on Meet the Press, that he had seen secret evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. So let's be sure to take his concerns about intelligence very, very seriously. We can do more on Tulsi Gabbard. Senator Tammy Duckworth was also asked about her choice.
Oh, yeah,
and she's not holding back on calling Tulsi Gabbard a compromised Russian asset.
Let's turn to the Democratic Congresswoman, former Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, who the president-elect tapped to serve as Director of National Intelligence. She's a critic of U.S. intelligence operations. She has promoted Russian propaganda. Your fellow Democrat, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, called her, quote, likely a Russian asset.
Also, how does Debbie Wasserman Schultz know this, by the way? How does she have this info? What's her access to this info?
Well, she said likely, so it's qualified. So
sure, but why? Why? What makes her that?
Yeah, great question. And also, I don't think it's likely that Debbie Wasserman Schultz is an asset of Israel. I think she is an asset of Israel.
She is, right.
She takes millions of dollars from Israel lobby groups and,
right.
Pushes constant propaganda for Israel. So
Right.
it's confirmed. It's confirmed there.
Yeah.
Along with Dana Bash of CNN.
Right.
Now, you and Tulsi Gabbard are both veterans. You served with her in the House. What do you think of her?
Well, I think she's compromised. I think by going to Syria and basically backing, a brutal dictator there. Russia.
Tulsi Gabbard, I think, actually did something very brave. She went to Syria to try to end a dirty war that the U.S. was spending billions of dollars on, arming an insurgency that it knew was dominated by Al Qaeda. That's why Jake Sullivan, in that famous email to Hillary Clinton, wrote, Al Qaeda is on our side in Syria. So Tulsi Gabbard didn't support arming an insurgency dominated by Al Qaeda. Remember Al Qaeda, like the group that attacked the U.S. in 9/11? Not someone that if you care about like national security, you want to be in concert with. So Tulsi Gabbard went to Syria on a peace mission to meet with people impacted by the dirty war, in which the U.S. spent billions of dollars arming an insurgency that helped destroy the country. And she was attacked for that. By contrast, people like John McCain, he went to Syria as well. He didn't meet with the government there. He didn't meet with, he didn't go to the territory where most Syrian people live under, now really harsh conditions, because Syria's large parts of it are in really bad shape because of the war. Now they can't rebuild because of U.S. sanctions. McCain went to the parts that were controlled by the Al Qaeda dominated insurgency. And he met with people actually who were directly involved in kidnapping Shia pilgrims and murdering them. So John McCain was actually met with people implicated in atrocities. Tulsi Gabbard went to try to end a war that we were fueling, but she gets attacked for that.
Russian-controlled media called her a Russian asset. So I do think that we have a real deep concern whether or not she's a compromised person. And frankly, the U.S. Intelligence Committee, the U.S. intelligence community has identified her as having troubling relationships with America's foes. And so my worry.
So I don't understand where she's getting this from. So Russian media called her a Russian asset.
Yeah.
So,
why would they do that?
It's like Russia was like, oh hey, yes, she's our asset.
Hey, she's our asset. Yeah.
Yeah. But then also, it's like if Senator Duckworth is taking that on faith, is she not parroting?
Oh, she's parroting Russian talking points.
Yeah.
She's a Putinist.
Yeah.
She's a Putin puppet.
And
Putin
the U.S. intelligence community has said that Tulsi Gabbard is trouble. Like, what is she talking about? Like, where does she get? Is she going to be asked for evidence of this? No.
Is that she couldn't pass a background check.
So, you are a Democrat. You are in the minority now in the United States Senate. If she can find the votes among Republicans likely to get confirmed, it sounds like that would worry you to have her in that job.
Very much so. She has no intelligence background whatsoever. When she was in Iraq, she was a medical records clerk E4, below the rank of sergeant.
I love this. Now they're like, so we're supposed to like support the troops,
Right.
Like, so Tulsi Gabbard served in Iraq, like, helping wounded soldiers, and now like, oh yeah, wow. Like,
right.
She was
low
just
level.
low level, blah blah blah. I mean, it's
Which is it? They're just scrambling.
They really are. They really are. All right, we are running out of time. We have to cut the show short earlier today.
Find out why soon.
Yeah. Yes. Find out why very, very soon. So what do we want to do next? We can skip ahead.
What do we want to do?
Should we hear from Useful Idiots fan favorite John Fetterman?
I was just going to say, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So John Fetterman's really happy. He's really giddy because this week, yes, it was a major setback with the International Criminal Court indicting, two of his besties, Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant, for war crimes. But on the positive side, from John Fetterman's point of view, the Senate did defeat Bernie Sanders' measure to cut off arms transfers to Israel. And John Fetterman is going to share his glee with that with his other besties, Fox News.
On the topic of Israel, your colleagues voted down this Bernie Sanders bill this week to stop supplying weapons to Israel. The new incoming administration is touting their foreign policy national security team as the most pro-Israel in modern history. Wondering if you agree with that.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, it was a pleasure to vote a big no on all those threes with my colleague from Vermont. I don't understand why anybody.
What do you mean with your colleague for Vermont? You didn't vote with? Oh, he means like re, like RE. Okay, whatever.
with my colleague from Vermont. I don't understand why anybody would bring that to the floor, but hey, if they want to go down, 80, 18, 19, that's up to you. But in terms of the incoming administration, I actually like what I see in terms of being a very, very strong pro-Israel through that, and I fully support that through that too. And when the administration will change, my vote and voice won't change either, and that's going to follow Israel through that. And they have made a magnificent kinds of progress on the process of generating longer-term peace by destroying Hamas, Hezbollah, and just demonstrating that Iran really, doesn't have the kind of capability to deliver any kinds of damage.
You indicated, Senator, this week, at least it seemed to me, correct me if I'm wrong, that you're open to supporting two of Trump's cabinet nominees so far, Marco Rubio for Secretary of State and Dr. Mehmet Oz for the CDC. Is there anybody else on his cabinet list that you think you might get behind? And then on the other side, is there anyone on your sort of over my dead body list?
Why Oz? He ran against him.
Maybe because Dr. Oz wants to, cut or privatize Medicaid, and John Fetterman is sold out everything people thought he represented. He was supposed to be this affable working class champion guy who wears a hoodie, and he's done a complete heel turn. He's a certified bad guy. Especially on the Gaza genocide, where he's so happy that Bernie Sanders lost his measure to stop arming a genocidal military.
Also, is he in a Wild West jail cell? Where is he?
That's his favorite backdrop for his interviews. It's like that brick wall. Yeah. Strange guy. All right. Well, listen, we'd love to bring you more John Fetterman, but because of time constraints, we're gonna have to cut him off there. But we get the picture. John Fetterman, you're an evil person. You love being evil. You love rubbing it in our faces, and you love genocide. So good luck to you in this next term, and he's obviously very giddy about all these Trump picks in the cabinet who will be, just as fervent supporters of Israel as he is.
Yeah. Thank God for him. All right. Well, that's it, right? We're wrapping up, and we will see you next week. Any announcements from you, Aaron?
None from me. Thanks for tuning in. Our website is usefulidiots.podcast.com. Go there to support the show and get bonus content.
And I'll have Cornell West on my show tomorrow. YouTube.com/The Katie Halper Show at 7 p.m. EST.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning
in.
Bye, guys. Monday morning. We'll see you next time.
Bye.